I spoke to my mom on Thursday, and she was fine. She said, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. I called her on Friday, and there was nobody picking up, and that was highly unusual. So by Saturday morning, I just felt in my gut something is wrong. I got in the car, and I went to their house, and their house looked like it was shut down. There was no light on. The paper was laying there. The blind wasn't open the right way. Something was wrong. They were gone. Somebody took my parents. I don't know who it is, but somebody took my parents. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I was just devastated. I said, they took my parents, they took my parents. I started calling around, and I called the hospitals. I thought maybe they're both sick. I didn't know what to think. And I went back out there the next day, and there was a sign on the door. It said, in case of emergency, contact April Parks, certified guardian. Who the hell is this lady? Who has my parents? How could this happen? I could not stop my thoughts. It was a million thoughts at once. I phoned her office immediately, and she said to me, I'd just like to let you know that this is legal, this is legal, this is legal. 3 times. I'm like, hello, what's legal? I don't even know who you are or what you're doing. My parents, where are they?
I just came from Julie Belshie's place, and she told me the story about her parents, Rudy and Rennie North, who they say were taken by a private guardian named April Parks. How can this be true? How can something like this happen?
I took a small spill right inside the kitchen, and I dialed 911. It was the worst mistake I ever made in my life. I literally was kidnapped from my own home, drugged, and I asked them where I was, and they said, you're on the 6th floor in the psych ward.
According to the guardian, she said you're very happy and content here.
I don't know where she got that story from. It's not from me. I am not happy and I am not content. I just want to go home.
Billy Mintz here, documentary filmmaker. I wanted to come by and talk to you about your experience with guardianship.
This is not supposed to happen in America. You're not supposed to be grabbed out of your house, given drugs so you're totally incompetent.
It's the industry of slow death. I can't explain how they do it, but they do it.
They're using senior citizens as the key to the money. It's about the money.
$47 trillion are about to change hands from the elderly to their children.
They put me on 2 drugs for the people who are delusional. I'm certainly not delusional.
I started seeing a pattern. These people would have some sort of a small episode, but all of a sudden, within days, they were under a court-appointed guardian.
Please release me from this. I would like to go home.
My mom had fallen down the driveway and she was rushed to the hospital. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I get a phone call from this woman, and the court had given her guardianship over my mom, both person and estate.
My mother was under guardianship, and I didn't know anything about it. I already told the guardian that they were in the business of killing people. I told her that when she told me my mother was in the hospital.
You gotta get me out of here, Diane. I'm not kidding.
People go in, corpses come out.
Most painful part was when they separated us. I was allowed to see her 2 times a week and only for 1 hour under supervision.
I don't deserve this.
But I gotta get out of here.
I have the right to be treated with dignity.
I have the right to be
my own federal laws and the activities. The world has gone mad.
My wife was taken away from me.
If something happens once, it's an isolated incident. If it happens twice, it could be a coincidence. But if it happens 3 times, there's definitely a pattern there.
2 of the owners of the hospice showed up, and they said they wanted to check Rennie and my vitals. And that was fine because they had done that before. And then I would say a half hour later, on the door, there was a woman in a beige dress with black boots on, and there was a gentleman with her.
What did April say when she showed up at your door?
First thing she said is that she was a guardian. I had no idea what that meant. And she said, I'm going to take you and your wife on a vacation, and you'll be there for 2 weeks. And I said, do you have a court order? And she said, yes. And I said, may I see it? And she said, I don't have it with me, but you'll have it in 2 hours. She gave us 3 choices. The first choice was she'll call the police and have us taken to jail. My wife, by the way, has CLL, chronic leukemia lymphoma. I wasn't going to see her go to jail. Number 2, we could go to a psychiatric ward. And 3, we could go to an assisted living facility. I chose that because it seemed like that was the least bothersome for my wife.
I said, I'm not leaving my house. And she says, you have to, or we're gonna call the police. I was terrified, and I fought with her. I started crying. I said, I'm not going anywhere. Who are you? And she kept telling me, it's gonna be fine. You're gonna like it. It's gonna be wonderful.
My wife was beside herself. She was crying. She was upset as could be, and rightly so. I was thinking at the time just one thing: make sure she doesn't go to jail. Make sure she doesn't go to a psychiatric ward. That's what was overcoming all of this. And if you say intellectually it doesn't make sense, well, it made sense at the time because she was crying and it was very difficult.
They grabbed me and they kept telling me, you'll like it, you'll love it there. They told me I was gonna go back home and never did.
My wife and I had not done anything wrong. I didn't have any idea what was going on. And in the back of my mind, I was so worried that they would try to separate us.
I got in the car. I had to go with her, otherwise I felt like I was gonna be arrested for what, I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about it because it's a hurt that's not going away so fast. I think he should have fought back like I did and say, I'm not going, and get out of my house.
I was the one that was compliant.
These are things that actually happened, and here I am screaming, and I'm not going, I'm not going. This is my home. He didn't stick up for me. He just went with them.
I had no idea where we were going, what we were going to do, and I didn't know how to stop it.
When I was at the place, I laid in bed. They gave me so much medicine. They said I had to take the medicine. I said I don't want it. And they forced me to take the medicine, and I would just lay there. I just lay there like I was not alive.
My name is April Parks. I'm with the Private Professional Guardian, and I am a nationally certified guardian here in the local Las Vegas area.
You find your parents in this assisted living facility and they're overly medicated. What did you think was going on?
I didn't have it quite figured out, but I knew something was terribly wrong, horribly wrong. We got in the elevator, we went upstairs to see my parents, and we went down the hallway. All of a sudden, this man takes me by my arms like this, and he's like, you have to help me, you have to get me out of here. Please help me. And he's talking to me and my husband and telling me about April Parks. He told me that she took him. It was awful. It was traumatic. I knew very early on in that we were in trouble, that we had to get my parents out of there.
We're gonna go see Dan Roberts, who's a publisher of a local seniors newspaper called the Vegas Voice. How can something like this happen?
It can happen because the Nevada court system and the private guardianship industry allowed it. And they did it in such a quiet, easygoing way that nobody would ever believe it. Is it true? Absolutely.
But you know how this sounds. I mean, you sound like you're crazy.
I sound like I am crazy. And I want you to know that when I met Julie's parents and I sat down with them, I thought they were crazy. And all you have to do is see how this system works, and you realize that crazy's the norm. Where else can you go in which a perfect stranger can take over your life without you even knowing about it? Where else can you do that? That's the way it is in the state of Nevada. The guy who has it all, the guy it's really Rick Black. Seriously, Rick Black is the guy from North Carolina whose father-in-law was taken, and his wife is Terry. And Rick and Terry have spent thousands of dollars in legal fees to try and right the wrong. And he has done an enormous amount of work. Rick is the guy.
Hello?
Rick Black?
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, this is Billy Mintz. How are you?
Hey, Billy, how are you?
I'm in Clark County in Las Vegas, and I've been looking into guardianship, and I'm a little confused. It's a deep rabbit hole.
Most people see it that way. Maybe I can help.
It's so complicated that is there any chance that I can get you to come out here and work with me?
Billy, I think it's a great idea. I've got some time and be glad to spend several days with you to walk you through the evidence. I can definitely be there within a week. We can sit down and go through it. I look forward to helping you.
I really appreciate that, Rick. Let's keep in touch, and we'll see you here soon.
You bet. I'll get back to you.
It's amazing how many people still don't even know what the word guardian means. They're not aware of this going on.
It was a strange feeling being one of the few journalists that had really dug into this. At the heart of it is exactly what we as journalists are supposed to do. We're supposed to find the afflicted and find ways to comfort them. For us, that's exactly what wasn't happening. These are somebody's loved ones, somebody's grandma, grandpa being taken advantage of, and no way to fight back.
In my research, I found that this is actually a really huge industry, especially in Clark County, that's built up around all of the retirees that are coming here.
If you are considering retiring here and you're an elderly, wealthy person, think twice. There's a large group of people involved, including local attorneys, family court judges.
When you see guardians using the same medical professionals over and over and over again, pain management specialists, physicians' assistants, to deem people incompetent, the same names coming up case after case and coming into people's lives, how could there not be some kind of arrangement there?
There are relationships made between the doctors, the lawyers, the private guardian industry, and the court. It's a relationship. Everyone gets theirs, and it's done with the approval of the court system.
I would be shocked if there wasn't some form of collusion going on.
Before making this film, I didn't know anything about guardianship. I'd never heard of guardianship before. Hello? My name is Billy Mintz. We had reached out to you about our film about guardians. How are you doing today? I mean, I reached out to lawyers, healthcare professionals, just to get a better understanding of what guardianship is. Hello? Hello?
You have reached the voicemail of 702.
I actually keep trying him, and he's always gone for the day. When would be a good time to call him that he's not gone for the day? Yeah, I sent him an email, and I'm just following up. We called other guardians. My name's Billy Mintz. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I left you an email about a week ago, and I hadn't heard back from you. Would love to speak with you, and I would like to get a full, rounded understanding of what's going on here. I mean, we don't even have to speak about the allegations towards potential guardianship abuse. I would just love to have somebody from the proper office talk about guardianship. No comment is a comment. I'm just trying to talk to somebody who knows about guardianship. All right. Okay, bye. And it's been really hard to get through to anybody. Never seen a guy gone for the day so many times. He's always gone for the day. But we finally found a private guardian, Susan Hoy, who's willing to talk to us. What's the role of a guardian?
A guardian is an individual that's appointed, through the courts to have authority over someone's life. Someone has a diagnosis that prevents them from making safe and appropriate decisions for themselves. That should be the foremost why somebody would need a guardian.
Once somebody's appointed your guardian, you turn over immediately. You ready for this one? You turn over immediately your bank account, checking account, savings account.
You have access to change the mail. You have access to obtain bank statements, historical bank statements.
Your annuities, your safe deposit box.
What physicians they see, what medications they take.
Your will and your trust, they get copies of all of that.
It's just like stepping into their shoes. You have full access into that person's life. Legal access. Mostly everyone that we deal with doesn't really want to be under a guardianship.
That's all I do is smoke and eat since this nightmare started. I can't pull myself together. I just can't.
How did April Parks get control of your mother?
First of all, when somebody applies to be somebody's guardian, all family needs to be notified by certified letter. And there needs to be a court hearing in the family court set.
Were you contacted by April Parks before she became guardianship?
Absolutely not. The family members don't know about the hearing, so they don't show up. And when you don't show up, automatically they become the guardian. It's kidnapping. It's legal kidnapping.
Even though I might be the guardian, I feel like it's very important that we include the family in the process. They know.
She called me one day and said she was an officer of the court and that she had been granted guardianship over my mom, and she was coming to pick up the keys to my mom's house. I kept saying, no, the house is in trust. I'm not gonna give you the keys to the house. She kept saying, I'll see to it that you rot in prison for life. I'll have you arrested for trespassing if you go near the house. But I wasn't handing over the keys. Then she said the magic words, I'll never let you see your mother again. That's when I handed over the keys.
I don't like to be here. Then I have to stay. So I want to go and I don't have to come back. I feel so, I don't know how I feel, very bad.
Do you know where you are right now?
The beach couch. I cannot say.
Nemikal means this, something like this shouldn't be. She knew in the beginning, all she did was say, where is my house? Where are my things? But once she was thrown into the gero psych ward for that month, when she came out of that psych ward, she did not even remember she had a house. She didn't remember she had any things. She came out basically a human vegetable.
So this is a place where a number of the people we've spoken to have been taken. This is where April Parks sends them. And they have a psych ward in here.
My mom was thrown into Desert Springs psych ward for almost a month, and they're fully restrained and shot up with drugs in there.
I don't imagine that I'm going to get access to it, but I've heard so many horror stories about it.
I had to meet with her in this horrible big room full of screaming, crying people. Half of them were in full body restraints. It was so horrible. I could already hear the screaming as I went up the elevator to the 4th floor.
You have to come back now. You keep in the closet. I'm trying to go over you. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
This is the psychiatric ward for
Yes.
geriatrics?
Yeah.
How do I come and look through? I'm a journalist.
I don't think you can.
Who's the
I got my charger. Hold on.
Thank you, dear. Visitors should take place in public areas. You can imagine that somebody coming up here who's not supposed to be here or whose loved one is in here, how alarming that must be.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
My name is Billy Mintz.
Miss who?
My name is Billy Mintz.
Hi.
I'm a journalist.
Okay.
I'm researching a story about guardianship in Clark County.
Okay.
And a lot of the people that I've been interviewing end up here.
Now, who
Is there-
authorized you guys to come up here?
We just came up. I just wanted actually to speak to somebody that maybe I can make an appointment. Our subjects who were sent here, are clearly not supposed to be in a place like this. This is for people who need the help. We try everywhere, but we keep getting stonewalled. Pretty much all we have is access to the people who have been under guardianship for the wrong reasons. Who we just spoke to, she seems optimistic that we can get an interview, but as you know, everybody who says that somebody else above them is going to talk, once it gets to them, they won't talk. Rick Black is coming from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's flying out just to help us with our investigation. Thanks for coming, man.
You're welcome.
Right on, brother.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
Most people in Las Vegas really don't think anything nefarious occurred. It's just a court system that's overloaded. It's a community with a high population of retirees, and it's a very liberal environment. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is sort of the prevailing attitude here.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and appoint your guardian today. I've got a pre-submitted order.
Your Honor, with all due respect, I strongly object. I object.
But you don't have a plan for taking your dad. He needs assistance bathing. He needs some assistance with his medication. He needs to be driven to his doctor's appointments.
And I could do that for free. I would not be charging him any room and board, as you can see on Exhibit 2.
My wife and I flew to Vegas thinking that we'd be going home with her dad.
This has been a living hell for me, Your Honor. I just, with all due respect, there's no one that would want to go through this.
Nothing we said, none of the evidence we presented was honored, and we lost.
Judge Charles Hoskin and hearing master John Norheim invariably rule in favor of guardians. I have never been able to find a case where they ruled against a guardian.
In that courtroom, you are not safe. Never go in front of a family court judge. Guardian's supposed to be a person who protects you. The predators target those folks that they feel are vulnerable. This is sociopathy from my perspective. The petition for guardianship is what starts the whole process. That's what the judge reads. She or he assumes that it's factual.
So this is the petition of guardianship. This is the paper that allowed April Parks to take your parents.
Right.
This petition of guardianship was electronically filed based on a letter that was from John Reyes that was faxed to April Parks. She then took this to the family court, this petition of guardianship, which is like the passport to your parents. I, John Reyes, am a physician licensed to practice in the state of Nevada. Mrs. North's physical condition has greatly declined and now needs full assistance with ADLs and medication management.
At the time when the petition for guardianship is filed, that guardian has no right to any of the information on that individual. Yet they magically come up with this information through the healthcare servicers that are providing services to these individuals.
Well, what did the petition say about Rudy and Reddy North that they could prove otherwise?
It said that they were incognizant, that they couldn't protect themselves, that they were in hospice, like they're ready to die.
The patient's husband can no longer effectively take care of the patient at home. That's you.
That's me.
As His dementia is progressing. The petition for April Parks to get guardianship said that they had dementia.
Correct.
They clearly don't have dementia.
Correct. You find these people can talk to you like I'm talking to you sitting at this table. Yet the petition says you're bedridden, almost in a vegetative state, and you need me to protect you.
Attendance at court hearing would be detrimental to the health of the proposed ward. So they're basically saying that he can't show up to court.
And they couldn't come to court to speak on their behalf. That's a major red flag in any of these petitions. You have to justify that that individual is so mentally incapacitated that they need a guardian to protect them. To do that, you need a neurologist or a psychiatrist. Those are the only two that qualify. Routinely, those physician certificates would be signed by a physician's assistant.
John Reyes is not a physician.
That's correct.
And this letter that he wrote about you
That's correct.
was sent to April Parks
Okay.
as a physician's certificate
Okay.
justifying this petition of guardianship to get guardianship over your parents. The people who are saying that they have dementia aren't even qualified to say it?
Correct. Yes, Billy, happens all the time.
The only other family member is reportedly an addict and has no contact with the proposed ward.
Yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Those petitions are full of lies.
How do you get your guardianships? I work with a gentleman in my office who is a qualified dementia care specialist. He'll go out and do a mini mental.
7717. Okay, well, it looks like somebody's home. Here we are, in front of John Reyes' house. This is the guy who wrote the letter that Rennie North has dementia. And he's a physician's assistant. He has no right to be writing letters like this, but this is the letter that April Parks used in order to incarcerate Rudy and Rennie North and take them from their homes. Hey, how you doing, man? You, John? John Reyes? He lives here, though? Do you know when he's expected back? Okay, can I leave my number? Sure. Thanks, man. You're not John Reyes because you look a lot like him.
I do, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not. Probably a little taller.
Little taller? Okay.
I'll let you know. I'll let him know.
Okay. Thanks, my man. I think that was John Reyes. How's the system supposed to work?
The system is supposed to work that the court protects the rights of the individual and the family and the designated estate executors. And that was Julie as their only child. Consistently, Norheim ruled in violation of that.
But he's the hearing master. He's supposed to, his job is he's supposed to look at the evidence, look at the two people that are in front of him and say, okay, I heard you, let me make a ruling on it.
And he never did.
Rudy and Rennie North, and I saw that Julie Belshi, is that Julie, had filed an opposition.
Yes, Julie's my daughter, Julie Belshi, our daughter.
Okay, is she here? Okay, so you're the one who filed the opposition.
Well, I just would like, if I already spoke with April Parks about this, because they are a part of my family,
Sure.
my parents. We've lost both my sister and brother, so it's my father and my mother.
I get
And
it.
they moved out here originally from Los Angeles to be close to their grandchildren.
I saw that you listed out all the relatives, but I couldn't get from this what your concerns were. This isn't Ms. Park's first time through this type of situation. You know, I believe everyone in the room wants the same thing. So it's just a question of getting it all worked out. I very rarely see people after the initial time in court. This normally just gets all worked out. Everybody does whatever's necessary.
There was nothing family about family court. This was about my friends want your money and they have represented a story and that's what I'm buying.
It just doesn't make sense to me that something like that would be allowed.
It didn't to me either, Billy. That's why I went on this crusade of investigating over 400 cases. Because one, I had the motivation of pain. I had the motivation of anger because I lived through it. I knew what these victims were going through. I knew what their families were going through. The average person 75 years old today has a net worth of $300,000 between their house and their bank accounts. When they are alone, you can now make moves against those people that will oftentimes go unobserved. They profile them and move them quickly into family court because guardianship is one of the easiest ways to fully exploit them financially.
The bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, is this type of exploitation of wealthy elderly people could never occur without the authority of the Clark County Family Courts.
Families torn apart, life savings drained, homes sold without court approval.
We definitely got a vibe from the court that was different than we had in previous stories when we've covered court-related issues. We kind of got a caution response from them. You better be careful who you're listening to, who you're getting your information from, because essentially you're just dealing with some disgruntled family members who are upset that they didn't get a windfall, an inheritance. They wanted to sit down with us before they would go on camera and basically tell us that it's a very complex issue that the average person is not going to be able to understand. Unless you're a guardian or a judge, you just don't get it. So that struck us as odd that they would try to tell us that I guess we're too stupid to figure it out or something like that.
They were trying to convince us nothing to see here. And that raises red flags for any investigative journalist when the people that you're focusing on are trying to tell you, you don't have a story here. I think at that point we realized, wow, we really have a story here and we have a bigger story than we thought.
But we can't film in there without not filming in a room?
I'm just telling you what the protocol is, you tell us.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. They won't let me in. They won't let me in with the cameras.
We cover court cases all the time. We go and we get both sides of the story. We get the plaintiff side, we get the defendant side. There's people that are unhappy with judges' decisions all the time. The court gives us information on those cases, but they seem to act very differently when it comes to the guardianship cases. They were definitely much more defensive from the beginning.
And we've had some very contentious interactions with, especially with the court information officer, where voices were raised and words were exchanged.
This is a courthouse. That's the reality. It's not a production house, it's a courthouse. So we don't care if you guys tape or not. We don't care if the judge is on TV or not. We don't care. The only thing we care about is protecting the integrity of the process. It's all about the integrity of the process.
To this day, they don't want to answer our questions. We can send an email with 3, 4, 5 very specific, very pointed questions, and we'll throw a party if we ever get a response that has any substance to it.
At this stage, we're not willing to.
What about,
we're willing to give you writing, willing to answer all your questions, but we may not be willing to put somebody on camera to answer the questions.
The courts just typically don't behave like this.
Every judge that we go to that wants to do an interview with us says we have to check with you, and then you say no. So you're on the front line.
They talk about transparency, but they don't mean it. It's transparent only on their end.
Got to keep the light shining on the people that are being taken. They're hiding what's happening to these people.
Why don't they want me to film? What are they trying to hide?
Family court was established in Clark County in 1993. Stephen Jones was the first presiding family court judge in this county. Stephen Jones is now in a federal penitentiary for running a fraud scheme out of his office. 2004, Jones hires Commissioner Norheim, who was a private practice attorney, and he was the criminal defense lawyer for a guy by the name of Rick Rizzolo, who was indicted and convicted for racketeering here in town. Jones plucked him and places him in this rather important family court role. And in short order, Norheim was hearing 100% of all family court adult guardianship cases. And when you realize, too, that that court was taking roughly 1,000 people a year and putting them under guardianship, that judge has a pretty critical role. I share all this with you, Billy, just to say, look, I don't have any proof, but when I look at the background and what has occurred since that time with the players, Stephen Jones, the background of John Norheim, hundreds of victims, the average rational American looks at it and goes, this is completely wrong.
The Vegas Voice was just a regular senior paper for your health, wealth, and good times. And all of a sudden, we found out that this is a problem. This is a very real problem. The regular newspapers aren't covering it. So the Vegas Voice got involved. And after the paper came out, detailing the guardianship problems, on a Friday afternoon, I received a phone call from an elderly woman. She was whispering, "You have to help me. I'm stuck. Someone snuck in your newspaper. I read it. I'm one of the victims. I have no other place to go. If you can't help me, I'm going to die in this place." And she said to me, "Come and meet me. If you think that I am mentally incompetent, then just walk away." She challenged me. How do you, as a human being, not take up her cause? And that person's name is Phyllis Moskowitz. And we spent a year getting her out.
I'm really happy that April didn't get your car.
I would have been sunk.
She got my parents' car.
Just a damn shame that they've been allowed to do what they've done.
And I'm also glad that she left you with things in your house and you got to go home. You know, I'm glad that you got to go home. You know?
Yeah. I've lost 6 dress sizes since this all started.
Last year at this time, remember how you called me and you had to whisper because you told me you snuck in the paper? Look what you've accomplished over the last year. Now, it's not fair that you were put there. It's not, Phyllis. We know that. Rhonda and I know that.
Nothing
But you know what? You got out.
Yeah.
And you're the only one. You're the only one. You beat him. I know you may not feel it, but you beat him. You survived. You're one of the lucky ones.
What she said to me is, I have 4 husbands and you and your mama can't get one.
I said, it's a choice, Mama. Don't use the word can't.
Yeah, normally this is done by the mortuary. But we just let's spend this little bit of time. She was under the public guardian. It's taken a little bit too much time to pay for the funeral costs. It's like they hold on to the ward's money like it's theirs. They don't want to let go.
I spent every school break, every holiday, everything here in Vegas. We would go traveling in the motorhome across the country. She helped me purchase my first home. It's crazy how total strangers can just come in and, you know, it's had a major toll on my family this past few years. And outside of our own personal issues, it doesn't help having total strangers come in that don't know anything about you and your family to just come and take control of things. It's strange. For me, we would be going to the nail salon and doing things and stuff, and I wasn't able to do that anymore in her last years. I just have to go and sit
They kept her a
with
prisoner. I couldn't take her across the street to get ice cream.
No movies, no.
Even to the 99-cent store where she'd like to go. We couldn't do that anymore. They wouldn't let us take her out the front door.
One thing I know for sure is that she wanted to go home. And it was like torture visiting her, and then I gotta leave. And she like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna go with you. I'm like, you gotta stay here. She like, I'm going home.
The Guardians robbed us, they robbed her.
Once her numbers start jumping and I knew that she might not make it another day, I was halfway home. I was like 2 hours away. And I just canceled everybody and just turned around and came back. And if nothing else, I was just glad that I made it back, because seeing her take her last breath, she was strong and she would want me to be strong, so.
I don't want this hand falling off the table. You look good, Mama. I just can't believe this happened to her. I miss you so much. I love you so much.
Just going into the ground, nothing's gonna be done. Watch.
It is again in this hour that our lives are once again reminded of the reality of living and death.
Thank you for coming.
So beautiful. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
She still has some years that they were stolen from her. Literally. Literally stolen. I'm heartbroken.
Can you give us some examples of the type of cases that you have?
I sure can. A large majority of our cases is exploitation. We have focused on that. It seems to be a pretty prevalent problem here in Southern Nevada. And so we have caregivers that are exploiting elderly people.
This is the bitch that stole my car.
We have family members that are exploiting.
Put a lien on my home.
Sometimes it's the casino change girl that's exploiting people.
Stole over $41,000 out of my bank account.
The jewelry, the furs, all that is missing.
Diamond earrings, that's gone.
Took all my annuities, my retirement annuities.
Lost the $320,000 house.
Tiffany watch.
Stocks, bonds, everything they thought they had, gone, finished.
We have nothing left. No money, no assets, nothing.
There's more to this than meets the eye. It needs a master, and I mean a master investigation.
Contact 13 uncovered Rudy and Rennie were charged $780 each for court filings and travel time to court on the same days in 2013.
That's over $1,500.
You're absolutely
to
right.
this couple.
You're absolutely right.
Who you're
And
saying doesn't
we-
have enough money already.
We will happily reverse those charges out.
We'll go back and happily reverse those charges. No, it shouldn't take an investigative journalist to be pointing out that level of wrongdoing. That's what the court is there for. It's one of those things when you first hear about it, you go, what? How can that be? How can that happen? How is that allowed?
How about $108 Parks charged Rennie to buy her a pair of stretch pants?
Does $108 for stretch pants seem
No, it
reasonable?
doesn't. And I'm happy to reverse that.
A group of us went to the county commission and complained about Commissioner Norheim and Judge Hoskins and what was going on with appointing of these private guardians and giving them a carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. And we figured if anybody could do anything to stop this, it would be them.
Supreme Court of Nevada said, wait a minute, you're not gonna make changes without us knowing about it. So let's form a blue ribbon commission to investigate the whole thing.
The commission's to look at the laws, to see if the laws need to be changed, to allow a place where people who are subject of exploitation are able to come forward, testify, and be able to tell their story.
Morning, I'd like to call the Guardianship Commission to order. I asked the Supreme Court to form a commission to study the administration of guardianships and conservatorships. Supreme Court delegated to me the responsibility to appoint the commission members. I spent a lot of time carefully selecting the people who are on the commission. Everyone who was selected for a specific reason. We are here today to take a fresh look. We're gonna get this mess cleaned up. Is there anyone who would like to offer public comment at this time?
Thomas Gall. My mom was grabbed on the street in front of her house going to visit a friend. She was then hidden in Pahrump unlawfully for 6 months and doped with psychotropic drugs such as Mellaril, Zyprexa, Paxil, Effexor, and so forth. I could not find her. I was devastated.
My aunt was victimized based on a defective document and incorrect diagnosis by an unqualified person.
They drugged him so heavily he couldn't eat or drink. They abused him from the first minute he got there.
She was taken from her home, kicking and screaming on a gurney.
What crime, tell me, did these wards commit?
Now that everything has been stolen and the home was lost, my mom has a life sentence in the nursing home, and April Park still walks free despite the fact that all the authorities are aware of what she has done.
Someone could knock on my door, take me away, and walk off with everything that I own. That is so scary.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about me or I. I not a good public speaker. I cannot tell a 4-year ordeal in 3 minutes. It came already to me and then it went again away. They split us apart in order to put her in a assisted living and be able to sell the house. That we were not allowed to speak in any other language, just English. And
slow down. What do you mean you weren't allowed to speak in any other language?
Well, the reason was that they were afraid that I might try to tell her the truth. We were completely under control.
Any other public comment?
My name is Leonard Stein. I'm the husband of Ellen Stein. I'm sorry, I'm not a good public speaker. My wife and I, we were married close to 30 years. We had a loving relationship. In my physical and mental condition, I'm supposed to be a guardian over my wife, and not strangers. But her son contacted Mrs. Tyrell and started taking over the guardianship. And the police and paramedics came and picked up my wife against her will, took her to St. Rose, and she was not allowed to leave. And I was completely separated from my wife. She always asked me, where are you? Why are you not here with me? And I was not allowed to tell her why. And she said, you promised me I'll do that to us part. I do not know what to tell her. All is due to Elise Tyrell. I don't know why she's here. She destroyed my marriage and our lives.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to me, to give me the opportunity.
lot of questions from the testimony that has been provided here continue to frustrate me considerably.
You have to go through this to understand. And then sometimes in the evening, you look through the windows and she was sitting by herself. Nobody was talking to her, nobody cared about her. She was probably her head spinning and thinking, why is she sitting alone here? Why am I not there? Please, sometimes.
What started all this was me. You had 3 or 4 people get up and rant and rave. The guardianship system in Clark County isn't that bad. It's what it is. The ward counts. Remember this.
You use the money in their estate to get lawyers to present this victim. I'm sorry. He started this.
Please don't do that.
Private professional guardian Jared Schaefer goes head-to-head with families who've accused him and other for-profit guardians of abusing power.
Any questions, you guys can find me anywhere you want. If you can't find me, ask Judge Boyle, ask Elise Tyrell. If you want to talk to me, call me. I'll talk to you about it individually or as a group.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Schaefer's influence on the court deprived us of a host of constitutional rights.
This is my mother, Anna Marie Gall, and this is the care that she got under Jared Schaefer, public guardian.
Hello, is Jared Schaefer in, please? Sure, this is Billy Mintz. I am a documentary filmmaker making a film about guardianship. Hello, Jared? Hi, Jared, my name is Billy Mintz. I'm a good Jewish kid from Toronto making a documentary about guardianship here in Clark County. Hey, he hung up on me. He said, when you read the files about guardianship, you'll know more. I'm not speaking to anybody about guardianship. Have a nice day. I didn't even know what that meant. Should I call him back?
As for Jared Schaefer, when we contacted him about this case, he referred us to court documents and hung up on us. Darcy Spears, Channel 13, Action News.
How does he get in here? There's no front door. Hey, George, we're right in front of your place. I tried finding the door, but I couldn't.
Well, you're not supposed to. There's a AK-47s pointed at it. If anybody breaks in, I'll be right there.
Okay, man. He said there's AK-47s pointed at the door if anybody tries to break in.
It's a little deterrent, that's about it.
That's okay.
You know what I mean? Now, what I'm about to give you here is been highly protected.
Abuse by public administrator's office.
That choked me up real bad. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They took them away, Jared Schaefer and his crew. And it's like you looking at your parents and you can't do nothing. There's gotta be a God in this world somewhere to help them.
Back in the 90s, 94, 95. Yeah. I was living at a place called Las Vegas Mobile Home Park. I would take out the trash to the dumpster, and I stumbled across a lad about 88 years old. And his name's Glenn Morrison. His wife I would meet, Ruth Morrison, and they became great friends. At 88 and 90, their minds were fine. I spent a lot of time with them, never wanting anything from them but the friendship. They were very kind people. Glenn had no family. He had his little mobile, single-wide mobile home, and I think $150,000 that he had in the bank. His wife, Ruth, her son, she would disown because he turned them into the public administrator's office. I actually was in the house when they came to the door. Ruth, you're looking terrible. You look sick. Why don't you open the door and let me in and we'll take you to the doctor.
You don't want anything and don't open that door. That's what she's yelling for, Glenn.
You've been married for 50 years. We're fine. They didn't care.
We don't care what they say. They said that you need somebody to watch. I need to protect you. Watch us for what? We take care of ourselves. Very good.
What made you start filming?
Intuition. They asked you to come out of your house again?
Yeah, this morning.
Ruth, what happened?
We wouldn't go.
What happened?
Well, we just said no, we weren't going to the hospital. We were fine.
Nobody likes your family hurt. And I had to watch this thing go on.
Jared Schaefer has declared himself to be Ruth and Glenn's guardian. And now Ruth and Glenn are barricaded in here. They have it locked so nobody can get in. And they're standing off Jared Schaefer at this point. Is that pretty accurate of what's going on?
Pretty accurate, yeah. We've always been together in the house. And we like it here. It isn't very fancy, but it's home. But if they leave us alone, we're fine. With George's help, we go out and eat a meal or two every day.
They put security guards outside of their home.
These are guards sent SOA, security. They sent in front of that. They're sitting in front of Glenn's home. They were there all night.
And one afternoon I had my camera and I was filming them, and they sent in a locksmith to unlock their doors by force.
They've now called in a locksmith August 4th around 2, 3 o'clock, taking the Morrisons by force, it looks like today.
Because they weren't coming out. It was like Custer's last stand.
I can't believe that. I can't believe it. And they get rights too as the citizens.
Yes, they do. They took them from their home.
Who took them?
Jared Schaefer, known as a notorious senior citizen abuser. And they put him into a facility. They fed him drugs, they died.
What happened to the $150,000?
It frightens me that some of the very same foot soldiers that are under the kingpin, Jared Schaefer, are sitting on this panel.
Elise Tyrell, 5531, on behalf of Jared Schaefer. I have Jared and Patience Bristol with me.
We want everything, plus the keys to the house.
No.
Your Honor, we're asking
No.
that Ms. Meltzer be appointed today.
Carol has been a dear friend for several years, and I don't understand why this is going on. She is a dear friend. I care greatly for her. She asked me years ago if I would help her. I've been doing that, and I went on vacation for 2 weeks, and her attorney for her lawsuit appointed Jared Schaefer.
Actually, I appointed Jared Schaefer, but
actually saying that she wants nothing to do with Jared Schaefer.
I need the keys to the house.
And he's temporary guardian. He's entitled to the
I
keys to the
understand.
house.
You're entitled to the keys to the house.
So when can he have the keys?
That courtroom is Jared Schaefer's courtroom. And don't make any mistakes about it. He'll do whatever he wants, and they're all listening to him.
Nothing sticks to Schaefer. He has too many people in his pocket, and too many people have been paid off. This is one RICO enterprise that's been going on for a long, long time at the hands of Mr. Jared Schaefer.
The people who are on this commission, they're not the solution. They were the problem.
Elise Tyrell, I understand, is charging $500 per hour to a ward that was appointed to April Parks, and that's a major conflict of interest.
What was your thoughts when there became a focus from the victims on some of the people that you had chosen on the committee?
While I can understand from the perspective of someone who characterizes themselves as a victim that a person who's sitting on the commission that they have strong feelings about, negative feelings about, shouldn't be here, I have a different point of view.
When it comes to your civil rights, being put under guardianship is worse than being sent to prison. Those words from a judge who sits on the commission. Chief Justice James Hardesty addressed what we've been asking about for months. What's being done to hold private guardians accountable for exploiting the people they're supposed to protect?
This building represents so much in this town, and there's been so much stonewalling from this building. And I'm about to talk to like the top dog. And for me to be allowed to be here, that's a new thing. How did this issue come to your attention?
You know, I've been in town a long time, and years ago, I always heard about potential abuses, but it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something that was my responsibility. You know, if you take a simple robbery case where somebody puts a gun to somebody's head and there's a couple of eyewitnesses and there's video surveillance, there's the law enforcement angle as far as did a person commit a crime, investigating that, and then bringing a prosecution. And then there's family court. It's separate from the criminal justice system. And I think that in Clark County is where the problem started.
Hi, this is Julie Belshi. Is Lieutenant Weiskopf available?
I reached out to District Attorney Wolfson 2 weeks ago asking for a status report. Received no response.
Oh, he wasn't in on Friday either.
We're just wondering, I mean, are we on a different planet?
I'm calling him regarding my parents. It's like we're infested with this disease and nobody wants to talk about it.
No one has been fired, not a penny's been returned, and I'm losing hope by the day, confidence by the day, that anyone is going to be arrested with this investigation.
This is the November edition of the Vegas Voice. In this edition, we made it very clear that our government officials have failed the senior population and that at best they're either irrelevant or incompetent. And I do believe that they are both.
I went down there week after week delivering files to them. And they say, that's great, Ronna. Go to the hospital, bring us Phyllis's file, bring us this, bring us that. And I did. I ran around like crazy. And then all of a sudden stopped dead. And Wolfson says, well, by this month you'll have an arrest. By that month you'll have an arrest. And nothing. 2 years, nothing. He's got witnesses. He's got cases. He keeps promising Julie.
It's regarding April Parks.
That's your mother? Or?
April Parks is not my mother, ma'am.
Oh.
She's a private guardian.
Regarding, okay.
When April Parks took my parents, something clicked in me, and I saw her in an orange jumpsuit, and I said, there's no way I'll ever back down. And I started filing petitions, objections like crazy. I was like a nut. What's going to happen today's deal is going to refer us to the district court, where we're going to go after the doctors and Parks and everybody involved. And I'm going to make sure it happens. I'm not going to back down.
We hope to be removed from the family court today and be able to go to the civil court in front of a 12-person jury. And we're going to pursue it all their way, and we're going for their balls. Just so they know, it's their balls we want.
There's been objections on the accountings. I will set a trial date at the end of the final accounting hearing. So I'll see you guys in 20 to 25 days, depending upon when that gets set, then we'll determine where we're at. Okay. All right?
All right, very good.
Thank you, Thank you, everybody.
You guys had 2 or 3 months to get this together, and now we have to wait till June 23rd. I just want to get out of this family courtroom, Deborah, okay? We're not going to make any progress.
As I explained yesterday, you just got to give us some time. This isn't like
Deborah, I've given you guys plenty of time. Wait a second.
You aren't my client, Julie. Wait a second. Your parents are my client.
I am your client. These are my parents, and I take care of them, okay?
This just takes time. One hearing. is one hearing too many, especially at the cost of $5,000 to $10,000. And that's what they cost. The attorneys, they have one interest: keep them in here, get their money.
April Parks doesn't have to be here. She's relocating. She's going to move. I don't know if you've got wind of it or not.
Well, she
What is all this?
She can move.
They don't have to show up.
I can't do this, Rick. I cannot do this. I cannot let these people get away with everything. And that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna get away with everything.
And we're not gonna let them get away with it because we got the media on our side. Hang in there. I know this is extremely emotional. Let's just keep her cool. Let me do some homework and I'll get back to you.
She's missed 3 court dates, and we believe because she has missed 3 court dates that she will be, what?
Held in contempt of
She'll be held in
court.
contempt of court.
If the other attorney decides to file that, which he won't, because all the attorneys are together and they don't want to ruin their little process of being together and referrals and all of that.
The priorities for the attorneys in family court elder law is, number one, make money. And that environment allowed them to make very, very good money. Secondly, protect your network, protect the institution. That means you don't go against Commissioner Norheim or Judge Hoskin, and don't go against your attorneys, your peers in the bar. And thirdly, if we're lucky, satisfy a client. But the clients would come and go. Guardianship is a one and done for the families that are brought before that court. The guardians are there every week. The judge is there every week. And their friends in the bar are there every week. And you could see in all these court records the consistency by which there was a dedication to support the institution, and the network far outweighed any interest to protect the victims or their families.
We're going to see Barbara Buckley. She is the head of the Legal Aid Center, which helps people who don't have money for legal recourse.
We never really operated in this guardianship arena before. But then the phone calls started. And they said, well, we're seeing cases where the guardian gets their tentacles into people, and they're not there to help the elderly person. They're there to take them for every penny they have. And I said, well, how could that be? And they said, well, can we give you a case or two? And we said, okay. You know, sometimes family members, you know, they have their squabbles, right? But that only goes so far, because in the end, families, for all their squabbles, still have rights. It's interesting to study how this thing got so off track, but in the end, it's greed and money, right?
So is that what it was, is that they were getting away with this for so long, they found something that they were able to do without being watched by other people, and then they just started taking advantage of that?
That's my theory. It happened, I think, so often that the culture was such that no one questioned it, and it seemed to kind of allow these folks to take advantage of vulnerable people.
I've been doing this for 35 years. I used to be the Clark County Public Guardian, and there's never been problems in the system. Not the guardians you got to be aware of, it's more family members.
Jared Schaefer used to be the Clark County Public Administrator and the Public Guardian. He is a man that helped create a lot of the laws around the guardianship system here in Clark County. Sometime in the 90s, he left the county and went into the private professional side, one of the first private professional guardians in Nevada. And what we found was this is a guy that had basically full control. He got onto any case that he wanted. Schaefer oftentimes controlled the courtroom. We saw that in at least a handful of cases where he stood up and ordered the courtroom to be cleared. And the court commissioner, John Norheim, listened.
There's no money left, and there are no records to explain where it went.
Who's been taking care of stuff?
Jared has been.
He has a complete accounting.
He does not.
It's how far back? When was the last accounting?
None.
Never been. Zero.
That would put us
We had a
12
lot-
years
we had a lot
behind.
to get out.
money.
And there's $400,000 that's not accounted for.
That's 12 years behind.
Your Honor, I'm here
let's-
to represent, there are no gaps. No matter what this lady says, give it a break.
Okay.
You don't know what's going on.
Here's
knew that was
the
coming.
bottom line. The bottom line is that Mr. Schaefer's been doing this for a long
An
time.
order needs to be issued that compels Mr. Schaefer to produce those records.
This case has fallen off the grid. This ward is off the grid. No
Your
one's.
Honor, close the courtroom. Close the courtroom.
Okay.
No, you stay.
Yeah, you can leave your things here. It's Kathleen.
Kathleen stays.
Stay.
She's from my office.
This is a man with, at that point, no power. He wasn't a public official, he was a private citizen. And Norheim listened and cleared the courtroom of all but Schaefer and the two parties. Schaefer was using the system to bill an extraordinary amount of money to these wards, to these elderly and infirm people that live in Nevada that he was supposed to be caring for.
In 2003, I warned everyone I could find of judicially sponsored kidnapping and theft. The government in this jurisdiction is not functioning with regard to these matters, and has not done so since at least the mid-1980s. I have all the information that the current situation started with Jared Schaefer and Kathleen Buchanan, but they were the government.
Can you tell me the difference between the private guardians and the public guardians?
The public guardian is part of Clark County, and they're supposed to take cases where no one else is available. As I understand it, a few years ago, their caseloads went up really high, and they were saying, don't send us any more cases. And so that's where this cottage industry grew of private professional guardians.
Public guardian is only supposed to handle indigent people, but they don't just do that. What they do is exactly the same.
This is a website that accuses the public guardian of doing the exact same thing as we heard about April Parks.
The public guardian's office was beholden to Schaefer. Schaefer's the kingpin. He was in there since 1979, and then he handpicked everybody from that moment forward who was going to succeed him. So I don't trust anyone in the public guardian's office or the public administrator's office, because he also held that job for many years.
It's a small little town, and they all know what's going on.
I have 3 women here that I definitely would love to talk to at some point.
Personally, I don't think so. This
It's done.
because I don't want anything.
Sure, yeah.
I'd be happy to review what your questions are.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was kind of excited. Yeah.
We're going to get Terry. This is a woman who has been diligently going through the records, and she wants to put people behind bars. And we did not know if she was coming today or not. She's extremely elusive. We just got a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning to come get her. She's on a mission of revenge. Her father was taken by Schaefer. So of all of the people that I deal with on this project, you're the only one that is worried about your safety.
Until you can actually speak the language that is spoken in court, they're not worried about you.
And so that's what you've been doing. You've been going through the paper.
Yeah.
For how long?
I started in 2003.
Wow. So you've been doing this for 14 years.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you've shown up at the commission, and you have all of this information, and nobody's contacted you.
No.
People have contacted Julie Belshi. People have contacted Elizabeth Indig. But they haven't contacted you.
Because I have the governmental tie. And they don't want to address the governmental tie.
Right, because you implicate the public guardians.
And thus the county, and thus the state. And there's certain secrets that they don't ever want revealed. The county's complicity in all of it.
I'm pretty nervous. What about you?
Of course.
You're the public guardian
I am, for Clark County.
for Clark County. So you were working in the public guardian's office with Kathleen Buchanan.
Correct. We are considered under state law the guardian of last resort. In those types of cases, when there's no family who's willing or able to serve, the public guardian can step in that role.
Pause. A lot of times when they say there's no family that's willing or able, well, they disable the family. Just like Julie, she was a drug addict. I'm sorry, you can make all these allegations with what kind of proof?
A lot of our clients, they're referred to us. They're referred to us from a hospital. They can be referred to us from Elder Protective Services.
A regular person would never understand that you could go to the hospital because you had a cold and that the hospital runs your financials and that they have really the first access to know if you are moneyed or not.
A private professional guardian who has their own business has no affiliation with our office.
Then why is there a certificate hanging in April Parks' office that's been signed by Kathleen Buchanan? That's interesting.
Once we're appointed as guardian, we set up case plans. If we're guardian of the person, we're looking at, are they in the least restrictive environment that can meet their needs?
Oh my goodness. That is so wrong. The second they snatched them out of the house, they put them in an institution somewhere. Least restrictive? No. And if they fight, she knows better. She's been there 8.5 years, she knows better.
I've been speaking with families. They've been in the dark this long about what's going on. Will there be any retribution?
Our criminal justice system, and I've said this for years, is oftentimes very inefficient. But when you're talking about elder abuse and exploitation and thievery, you have to subpoena those records. And they're massive, because we're talking about not just 1 or 2 transactions. We're talking about hundreds of transactions. So you have to interview hundreds of people and look at thousands of documents. And then you have to put it into such a format that is presentable to a jury. So it takes a lot of time.
They've had credible information about this since about 2004 when I first started telling people. I told the police had me in secret meetings that nobody will probably ever know existed. I was asked to come back 2 and 3 times to tell them what had happened. And then they took me to somebody totally outside of the police to test my credibility. That person told them, whoever she is, take her down and sign her up. Do you think they did it? No.
So I wish I had 5 J.P. Robbins instead of just 1, and 10 Metro detectives and 10 attorney general investigators. But in the real world, I don't have those resources.
Do you think the people who are the perpetrators, are they aware that they might face justice?
Absolutely. There are people that are probably pretty worried and scared right now about the system finally catching up with them.
Private guardian April Parks can no longer avoid accountability as investigators carted out boxes of documents from Parks' office. She spoke to us back in May.
When I get to that age and somebody tries to put me under a guardianship, I'm probably going to come out kicking and screaming too.
In a short while, you're going to see, I'm not going to say a spoonful, you're going to see a whole gallon of justice delivered soon.
So I did go see Wolf.
All right.
You son of a bitch.
Mr.
Yes,
Wolfson,
and
I'm sure it
please
went
talk
great. New
quiet.
good buddy? Yeah.
So first thing he told me was that there's a press conference on Wednesday.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. And it's very frustrating. You feel like you're alienated from society. You feel like you've done something wrong, and we've done nothing wrong.
All this
We're
work,
trying to help people.
it's hard. This is good because all that you've worked for is now happening.
We don't know. They could
But
just
as
be
Scott
lying.
said, listen, we've gone through months of hearing this. It keeps getting delayed and promises and delayed and delayed and promises. Okay? Now let's hope that Wednesday happens.
He said, and I quote him, "If you are expecting a spoonful of justice, expect gallons of justice."
That would mean a lot of people, right? I mean, he's gonna bring down the whole entire gang. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's too good to be true.
Wolfson's putting on a press conference.
You're kidding me.
He told me, expect gallons of justice.
He did? He said gallons of justice?
We've funneled a lot of evidence to the Attorney General, to Las Vegas Metro Police Department on the activities of guardians and lawyers over the last 5 years. It'll be hopefully a day of celebration.
My dream is that April Parks and Jared Schaefer go to prison for the rest of their lives for the harm they've done.
What do you think he's gonna say?
I have no idea, but
What do you want him to say?
I want him to say that this has been going on in this state for 30 years and that they are going to arrest Jared Schaefer, April Parks.
Justice for me in this situation would be for the whole ring to go down. These people are going behind bars, and I want to be the person to turn the key and tell them, there you go. This is your new home. Enjoy it.
If the whole crew got indicted, starting with Norheim, starting with Parks, starting with Schaefer,
It would be a moment.
starting with Hoskins,
It would be a moment.
the idea that he stands up and say they've been indicted doesn't get you back any money, but just a little bit of justice to see what's going on.
So that's gallons for me.
And for that one moment, you feel a sense of satisfaction.
Yes,
One
it
moment.
would. Yes, it would. It'll be a big day. If we get the gallons, it'll be a big day.
I do feel like something is coming down. I mean, this sounds to me like they're going after the big guys, or the big guy.
It must be stopped. It has to be stopped.
I've been told a couple times that they're going to take care of this and get everything resolved. I can't get too excited because until I actually see something, I won't believe it.
We're going to court. Hopefully they bring them all down.
Everybody's been involved. The power of the lawyer has been involved. The power of the judicial system has been involved. There's no doubt in my mind that we must go much deeper.
She's put me and our family through a tremendous strain. I've never been put through this. I think actually my sister and my brother who passed away, at least there was closure to it. This woman, I think about every day, and she's put us through hell.
Can't get too excited or be too loud about stuff.
No tears, just a smile today, right?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Wolfson. I'm the Clark County District Attorney. Thank you for coming today. Today, law enforcement sends a clear message to those who take advantage of our most vulnerable citizens. I can't imagine a class of people more susceptible to criminals than wards of a court. We indicted April Parks and 3 others. This indictment includes more than 130 victims. I'm saddened to say that most of the victims that are part of this criminal indictment have since passed away. I hope this indictment brings some relief to the families of these victims.
April Parks is one private guardian, but her actions went through and were facilitated by a number of other people. There were other attorneys that she used. There was a commissioner, family court commissioner John Morheim, Judge Charles Hoskins. There were doctors, physician's assistants who signed off on certificates that we've proven to be fraudulent. Where will the accountability come for them?
Well, here's what I'll say. These are huge cases. You can imagine the volumes and volumes of paperwork involved. You can imagine that some of the events that are under investigation go back many months and many years. What you're seeing today is the return of one investigation where 4 people were indicted. This is a significant indictment which sends a message. And I'd like to tell you that I was just informed that 2 of the defendants are in custody, April Parks and Mr. Taylor have been arrested. So within just a couple of hours of the warrants being issued, they are in custody.
Thank you.
So thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate it very much.
And new at 6, what started with a Contact 13 investigation has led to hundreds of felony charges.
I do it because I love it.
April Lynn Parks, her husband Gary Taylor, her attorney Noelle Palmer Simpson, and her office manager Mark Simmons are together facing 270 felony counts of perjury, racketeering, filing false records, theft, and exploitation.
We did it. Oh my God.
Yes. Did I tell you this day would come?
I'm not supposed to have an opinion, but we've had years of blood, sweat, and tears that we poured into this. This investigation began in 2015. Here we are in 2017, seeing the first measure of true accountability.
Glad to see some of these horrible people behind bars, but there are more. There's a whole bunch more out there that need to be in the same, at least cell block.
We all want justice with our loved ones. It's not just April, it's a lot of people here in Las Vegas that are committing crimes, and they need to be brought down.
How are you feeling, Rudy?
I'm feeling tired of it all. I'm very tired because it's been reliving over and over, and we're trying to rewrite history. It's hard. It's very hard. It's too much for the family. It's too much scar tissue.
She still thinks it's a game.
She's affected by it, trust me.
She is?
Ms. Parks, what is your full name? April Lynn Parks. Do you understand the nature of the charges contained in the information that has been filed in this case?
I have not had a chance to read it.
You understand the nature of those charges?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the indictment in this matter?
But she's got a copy as of this morning.
Because it is a lengthy indictment. Very well, then I presume that you are prepared to enter a plea here today, is that correct?
I am.
How do you plead?
Not guilty.
I know this case will probably be deemed complex right off the bat, given the
Clearly.
initial counts, and it might be better if I can just...
An unsettling discovery inside a Henderson storage unit.
I discovered an urn, and I thought, oh my God, this is somebody's loved one.
The disturbing discoveries didn't stop there.
I found a tub full of remains, and then a second tub full of remains. I was just shocked. Almost 30 sets of remains. Somebody had the gall to store a family member in a storage unit like that.
That somebody was this woman, April Parks. She's behind bars. This indictment includes dozens of victims, including names that were on urns found inside the storage unit.
It's still going on. What saddened me was the fact that they put hands on this woman, physically bound her, took her out of her home, and ransacked her house.
Hello? Hello, Patricia?
Yes, it's Patricia.
My name is Billy Mintz. I'm a documentary filmmaker, a friend of Rana Goodman.
Yes, I know.
The fact that this is happening now, it's just completely, you know, like, it's still going on.
I got hit.
What happened to you?
I was sitting on my seat, and they came in and biffed me there with something. I don't know what it was, but I was fighting them back, and he was fighting me, and then he tied my hands together, my legs together, and then they called his other buddy over, and they flung me onto this gurney.
I was in the garage, and they carried her out like on a, I don't want to say stretcher, but she was tied down on something. I could see her struggling, and she really didn't want to go. You don't really take people out, you know, strapped. That's not good. I mean, she didn't want to go.
After all of these complaints, after the commission meets, after the investigation, even with the arrest and the indictment and all these things, they're still doing this.
Yes. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed after all this work.
You didn't know these people?
No, no, I didn't know none of them. I said, get out of here, I don't need no guardian. I said, I'm okay.
This is Clark County Public Guardian's office. In the case of Patricia Vonyu, when she was removed, she was bound with her ankles and her wrists, put on a gurney. She claims she was hit. She has the bruises to show. Her neighbors came to ask what was happening, and one of your managers told them it's none of their business and they need to leave.
And then she stopped my mail. I couldn't get any mail.
She changed your mail.
She went up to the mail office and she told people that I've left the house. She won't let me have any mail.
How does the person who becomes a ward know that they are a ward?
We go out and meet with our wards, or propose wards at that point, and let them know what our intentions are. Then, once we've filed a petition, the attorneys send out the legal documents telling them when there's a court date, and they have to be sent out by certified mail, and that's when a protected person can appear in court.
But Patricia was not aware that she was in guardianship, according to her.
Again, I mean, for us, any kind of interactions we've had with a ward, we consider confidential.
So a lot of the people in all of these cases explained that they did not know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
They became wards without knowing it. Their parents became wards without them knowing.
Absolutely. In case after case, that's all you find is some ridiculous situation where they never knew. They never knew that there was a hearing. They don't know who these people are. They don't know what is going on. I've seen it to where they're actively taking steps to make sure that people don't know.
How do they do that?
I've seen cases where the mail was being intercepted.
Can you show me something?
I can. I remembered a case that I had heard about, and the woman's name was Evelyn Cesario, so I looked at that file. Miss Buchanan did indeed file a petition for guardianship of Miss Cesario without her knowledge. A mail forwarding order was issued, forwarding her mail directly to the public guardian's office. Look at the date that it was done.
That's February 5th.
2002.
The petition of guardianship was placed on February 6th.
Correct.
This mail forwarding change of address form was done a day before they even had guardianship, before they even petitioned for guardianship.
Bingo, which means she'll never get this notice.
How can they do that?
That's actually mail fraud, but the kicker is this. She's walking in doing this based on her strength as a public official, and there has been absolutely no hearing.
How many smoking guns do you want? How many smoking guns do you want to say, wait a minute, the whole system is no good? This is just another example of it. And yet when you explain this to people and you get outraged by it, people are gonna go, oh, you gotta be wrong. We have safeguards. We have a judge. We have public officials.
And so Kathleen Buchanan, who's petitioning for this guardianship, used to work for Jared Schaefer. Elise Terrell, who's Jared Schaefer's lawyer.
Yes. They can just walk in and walk out with orders that affect so much and so many people's rights. And people are kind of fixed on the living person, the ward. But you've got to understand, they have family, and the families located all over the country. This is not some localized situation where everybody's in Vegas.
This is federal.
Your mail, the bank, any investments you have, all of that is federal.
But nobody knows about this outside of the state.
And they want to keep it that way.
Would I like to have 10 more investigators and 10 more detectives that can work full-time on these matters? Absolutely. Because I believe that more cases would be generated.
And at some point at the federal level, people are going to ask, how in the world did this go on for this length of time?
So we're doing the best we can with the resources we have.
But it seems to be the same thing keeps happening, where in some cases, the forwarding of mail happens before they even have guardianship, which is mail fraud.
You're using a federal term, mail fraud.
I mean, would you guys look into mail fraud, or is that a federal thing?
That's a federal offense, and that would be the jurisdiction of the federal courts.
Okay, but it seems to be the focus has been on non-government individuals. What about people within the government? What about people within public administration?
We're not at liberty to say right now.
Okay, fair enough. The stakes are so high and the repercussions are so high.
All they can go after are the private guardians who actually gained all their knowledge and skill and operation from the public guardian and the public administrator. This all started in the county offices here. And nobody's watching, including the judges or the court or whoever's responsible for making sure that the law is being followed. No one is looking at this paper.
Or maybe they just all know what's going on and they hope nobody else finds out.
Too late.
There isn't a state in this country who's willing to hold these judges to account, to hold these guardians who exploit to account. Without Department of Justice and FBI investigations, it just gives the predators another license.
Every Sun City, every retirement community has its Schaefers and April Parks type people out there. This is now graduating from beyond a local or state investigation. It needs to go up to the feds. There are numbers of people that need to go to prison. If it involves public officials, so be it.
Schaefer, he's the kingpin of all of it. He even admitted that in the commission. I'm the one that created all this. I taught everyone how to do it. He blabs about it all the time to everybody.
How has somebody like Jared Schaefer done so much damage in this town without getting caught?
There's a politician, a big shot, was a good friend of his.
So Jared Schaefer is severely connected in this town?
Severely connected, yes.
It seems to me that elderly people will always be victimized by this town if the same people are running things. And I'm gonna leave here, and this is still gonna go on.
I've never experienced a pain as painful as what the people go through who are drawn into that court. If this effort didn't change things permanently, nothing will. And it's not going to change things because leadership doesn't want to change. They like it just the way it is. They just don't want people to get outrageous like April Parks did. Jared Schaefer right now is laughing. He's laughing at me and every other person who thought over the last 30 years that they could hold him accountable if they just got the evidence to the right people. What Jared Schaefer has done to dozens of victims was criminal. I can't express my anger that after all of this exposure, he'll walk away free. I'm in disbelief. I'm in disbelief. I don't even know what to say. Done. They win. They win. God damn it. What's a law worth? What's a law fucking worth?